Animal welfare movements have become exceedingly prevalent in modern American culture. Many nowadays are choosing to opt for vegetarian and vegan options in place of meat, and increased ease of access to information has shined a light on the horrific way animals are processed in this country. As a result, there has been an increase in demand for a revolution in the way meat processors treat their livestock. One champion of the animal welfare movement has changed the way we think and treat animals that are destined for slaughter, and has designed humane-centric equipment that processes over half of the cattle in the United States. And she is autistic. That champion is Temple Grandin.
I think I'll start out and just talk a little bit about what exactly autism is. Autism is a very big continuum that goes from very severe.
Born in 1947 in Boston, Grandin was completely nonverbal until the age of 3.5 years. In 1950, she was diagnosed with a certain type of autism, which explained how her thoughts appeared to her as photorealistic images in movies. After graduating from a boarding school in New Hampshire, she went on to attain a bachelor's degree in human psychology from Franklin Pierce University. Further, she went on to acquire a master's from Arizona State University and a doctorate from the University of Illinois, both in animal science. She would go on to teach the same subject at Colorado State University. While attending college, she invented a hugging machine designed to help calm sensory overloaded autistic individuals by gently squeezing them or hugging them in a padded machine. This concept was eventually adapted to technology used to herd cattle to their slaughter in a way that wouldn't frighten them and contrarily calm them down. This is but one innovation dreamt up by Grandin and is one of the reasons she is well known and highly regarded, both professionally and academically. The way her thoughts appear to her in detailed pictures and movies serve her in creative design of livestock equipment and has provided benefits to everyone involved in the beef processing industry, from the cow to CEO. She is also a valuable asset for U.S. food service companies such as Burger King, Chick-fil-A, and McDonald's, to name a few. Her designs have reduced the stress animals feel while being processed, which allows for a safer work environment for floor workers and a better product for the end customer. On top of safety benefits, the safer handling of animals has increased quality of meat by not having adrenaline flood the animal if it was handled improperly. Additionally, she has designed remote camera systems to increase transparency and accountability for meat processors. As a result of her accomplishments, and despite the difficulties she encountered because of her autism, Grandin is seen as a distinguished activist of the autism awareness movement. Her childhood experiences have fueled her desire to support autistic children in ways that will allow them to flourish in the world. In an interview with Milestone's Autism Resources, she stated, quote, "When I was a little kid, I was very autistic. Nonverbal, screaming, rocking. That's the kind of kid they just put away in an institution." Unquote. She credits the intervention she received for allowing her to work on and strengthen her communication skills, and despite being nonverbal until 3.5, she was speaking by 4 and enrolled in a standard kindergarten by 5. This is the reason why one of her main and most stressed talking points is early intervention for autistic children. Furthermore, she criticizes the tendency for people to baby fully verbal autistic children, which can handicap them by preventing them from acquiring work skills that they would have otherwise had no problem attaining. She believes that the interests of autistic kids need to be at the forefront of their education, and that the screen time they receive should be limited, especially now when placing difficult children in front of a screen is a tempting option for stressed and frustrated parents. She advocates for empowering autistic children and their parents and have them recognize that autism is a superpower and not a defect. All of this is encircled in her wider activist rhetoric style. Her use of invitational rhetoric has sparked many important dialogues about the autistic community and how much potential it holds. From the classroom at Colorado State University to stages all across the country and world, she is using her experiences as an autistic person to empower others. In the times of Grandin's childhood, autism was seen as a weakness or defect, but in spite of that, she went on to fight for and empower the autistic community through meaningful dialogue and exhibiting what autistic individuals can be capable of. In essence, Temple Grandin is an exemplar of what autistic individuals can be capable of when they are supported and provided the proper treatments. She is the living definition of a dynamo. She revolutionized cattle processing, teaches animal science at the University of Colorado, and has written numerous books on the topic, as well as been the author or co-author of more than 60 peer-reviewed scientific papers. Alongside all of that, she still finds the time to tour the country and advocate for autism awareness. If Temple's parents ignored her childhood issues or gave in to institutionalizing her at a young age, we would not have the numerous contributions she gave to humanity and Animalia alike. She says herself that she would not be where she is today if it wasn't for her autism, and that we need to start recognizing the amazing things autistic individuals can accomplish in their lives. That's why she is so passionate about autism activism. She wants for others what she has experienced and for them to fulfill their maximum potential. Arguably being the face of autism-related activism, Grandin's communication skills are an essential part of her ability to inspire autistic individuals. A common stereotype of autistic people is that they are unable to communicate in the same style, for instance, you and I would. Typically, people think of monotone and unaffected speech patterns when thinking about how autistic people communicate, but that is just a stereotype that limits our perspective of autism and its benefits to society and the world more broadly.
Who here knows these two men? What about these men do you know? These two men are Albert Einstein and Sir Isaac Newton, two world-famous geniuses who were both said to have a form of autism known as Asperger's syndrome. This disorder affected both Newton and especially Einstein in their day-to-day lives, to the point where Albert Einstein had dropped out of high school at age 15. And yet, despite all these difficulties in social connections, one of the biggest symptoms of Asperger's syndrome and most other forms of autism, both Einstein and Sir Newton were still able to be successful and happy in their day-to-day lives, to the point of gaining world fame.
Grandin is an individual, not an organization, but she exhibits much of what an autism social justice organization would seek to accomplish. Her values can be compared to many other social justice activists of the past. Responsibility, empowerment, education, respect, and the general common good are all examples of the values held by social justice activists, and Grandin is no exception. She encourages parents to give their autistic children responsibilities from a young age to help them acquire skills that they can later use in their careers. She travels the nation and participates in a multitude of media interviews and publications to educate the general population on the topic of autism and how autistic people are not that different from them, and in fact, they can be invaluable to businesses and their communities outside of work. She also urges people to lift their stigmas associated with autism in order to empower them and increase awareness of the benefits, not just the deficits, of autism. While Grandin's outreach spans the nation, a little closer to home, the Center of Excellence on Autism Spectrum Disorders is supporting and empowering our autistic students and staff, as well as those with autistic family members or those just interested in this wonderful resource. The center helps provide resources and support for the autistic individuals at our institution, alongside providing training for school paraprofessionals and even training for prospective babysitters and others who wish to engage with autistic people in a professional setting. Furthermore, the center also participates in setting up workshops and events in collaboration with a multitude of well-known organizations. Included in the organizations the Autism Center has worked with are the Yale Child Study Center, AT&T, and the Kennedy Center of Performing Arts. A more recent pertinent endeavor in partnership with the center is to work with the SCSU Police Department to conduct training on how to properly interact with or de-escalate tense situations involving people on the autism spectrum.
A traffic stop can be nerve-wracking for anyone, but health experts say encounters with police can be especially challenging for people with autism.
Good afternoon, sir.
But one Connecticut law enforcement agency is trying to change that. The Southern Connecticut State University Police Department created this training video with SCSU's Center of Excellence on Autism Spectrum Disorders.
The reason I stopped you today is you failed to stop at the stop sign right back there.
The goal is to help members of the autism community, as well as police officers, learn from one another.
I think it's really about building shared awareness and creating bridges between communities so that folks have common understandings and have more successful encounters.
On top of all that, the center also conducts research related to autism. In their own words, through research, education, and partnerships, our mission is to build capacity in our schools, higher education institutions, vocational settings, and broader communities to enhance the outcomes of individuals with autism spectrum disorders of all ages. If you would like to provide support for the center, you can go to go.southernct.edu/giving/autismcenter.php and donate to this invaluable resource in turn provided for us.